Hey Caleb, thanks for joining me on a trip to my local game store. I hope they have what we're looking for.
Always a pleasure, Myles. Let's see. Blaster Master. Kickle Cubicle, that's pretty good. Whoa. They have a copy of Moon Patrol for the Atari 2600. I am absolutely buying this.
Why?
This is a port of the 1982 arcade game that gave us parallax scrolling. Entertainment at large is built around the idea of immersion, of pulling players further and further out of their own reality in favor of a curated reality. But video games must jump unique hurdles that movies and books don't have to. Video games require contact points, controller buttons specifically, that at every press stand a chance of reminding the player that they are playing a game. Realization is the enemy of immersion. Movies don't have that, and books, though they are essentially a giant contact point, are too far down the base of the uncanny valley to worry about shocking realization. But video games, they've got to jump both the visual and the tactile hurdles. And parallax scrolling represents a huge important landmark in the never-ending, ever-expanding timeline mapping the progress of total immersion.
That's great, Caleb. I just meant, why are you getting that copy? The box is mangled and there's a mint condition one right next to it.
Oh, yeah, great insight on your part too, Myles.
I do what I can. Hello, everybody. This is Flock Talk, episode 9. This month we're talking about our gaming expectations. Should be a good time. So big thanks to Caleb J Roth for that intro. If you want to check out some amazing game reviews, post-game smoke reviews, and he has a series called Hey Future Caleb that is off the charts. Go to youtube.com, just search for Caleb J. Ross or Burning Books. I also want to mention that Kathryn and I were on Polykill recently.
Yes, we were on with Travis and Jake from Polykill Podcast. Don't look so sad, Chris.
It was called Meet the Flockers.
And they met all of the Flockers.
No one invites me to these things. I never get called up.
You're kind of like our mystery flock member, you know? We like to keep you secret.
You're a secret weapon.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the second string of Flock Talk.
Are you looking for new podcasting opportunities?
No, I'm not.
Okay, we like to keep you nice and fresh for the podcast. We know you're a very busy guy.
Well, I hope you're not too busy to go to the Barrie Game Exchange happening on August 13th. A lot of people from YouTube and a lot of bloggers are going to be there. So even if you aren't interested in buying old video games, there will be new video games there that you could pick up. There's going to be a lounge where you could play some games. And you're also going to be able to meet some people, some content creators.
Oh yeah, and it's branching out. This Barrie Game Exchange is going to have like board games and
Magic the Gathering cards.
Yeah, it's going to have some collectible card stuff going on too. Like they're really trying to branch out and make it a little bit more like a convention.
Since it's kind of like a retro gaming kind of convention exchange, if I brought my vampire deck, the old... What was that game?
Vampire the Masquerade.
The Masquerade. If I brought a Masquerade deck, do you think anyone would be there ready to play Vampire the Masquerade with me?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can set up something on a forum or a message board and say, do you like vampires? And then tell people to meet you at the Barrie Game Exchange.
Yeah, tweet it out.
Tweet it. Tweet about it.
Use social media, gather a group of vampires, and then come on out to the Barrie Game Exchange.
Listen, I think what we're learning is that you can't just expect someone else to set up the things you want.
Especially when they're so specific. Chris, that's very specific. But we're going to move over to Hot Topics.
Hot Topic.
And Chris,
hey,
you got into football this last month.
Yes. I was reading on the internet for fun things to do on the internet.
Oh, that could be dangerous.
And that's how you got to the Vampire the Masquerade.
Well, first I found out about this old game, Vampire the Masquerade. But then I found out about a website, a ongoing kind of web series called 17776 Football, and it is about football in the year 17776, what football will be like in the year 17776, and what human beings will be like in the year 17776.
That's quite interesting because due to global warming, I don't think we're going to make it out of this millennium. So how is there a world in 1776?
So it was an ongoing web series that just recently ended. I think you can probably get through the whole thing in about 3 hours if you're really dedicated, but it's in parts, so you don't necessarily have to watch or do anything in kind of a dedicated way. It is about 3 sentient space probes having a conversation about what football is like in 17776. And if you want to go in blind, kind of stop here, here's the part you stop at. And then I will tell you when to start back up again, I guess. But
that'll work. That's how podcasts work. Come back in 2 minutes.
Yeah. So in the year 76, the human beings have stopped aging, and it's all about what kind of games people would play if they were no longer worried about death, if they were no longer worried about how they use their time. And it's kind of like what an immortal being would want out of games. So I think it's very relevant to everyone listening. It's
and
like
our topic.
And our
today.
topic,
yeah, like, if you didn't have to worry about time, what would a human being be? And I don't want to give away the answer, but the answer is kind of like you want unpredictability. And it's kind of like how these football games, which become these massive, like, globe-spanning games of football, not even like that anything that even remotely looks like football, how they try to create unpredictability in lives where everything can happen. And like if you just sat down and did, like, you could read every book if you didn't age. You could just pick up a book and read every book that's ever been written. How do you build unpredictability into that?
I mean, that's interesting. I understood all of that. But the only thing I don't understand is this American football or is this soccer?
Oh, it's American football.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that was the one thing. That was the one thing.
Everything else is crystal clear.
Yeah, crystal.
So it is. Let me just get back to it is a web series, and you kind of have to do it by yourself. It's not something you can share with someone in the moment.
But it's not a web, like, because when you say web series, I think of a video web series, but that's not what this is. And you sent us a link, and we had no clue what we were getting ourselves into. And I thought it was a broken link for the longest, like when you first look through the website. So it's a website that sort of evolved.
And it is mixed media, so be prepared for that.
Yeah, there are videos in it. There are GIFs in it. It's mostly text. The story's delivered mostly through text. But you kind of have to do it by yourself. You can't really sit with anyone, so it makes it like a very insular experience. And I think because you're sitting in on a conversation, it adds something to that by being like just you alone experiencing that conversation. Yeah,
and it's just not like anything I've ever seen before. I didn't know what I was experiencing while I was experiencing it, right? Like, because it's so unusual and you've never seen anything like it, that you just have no clue what's happening, and it slowly starts to, reveal itself, and it starts to become clearer and clearer, but you need that time to, like, really dedicate to it to allow it to become what it becomes. Yeah. And it gets weird and...
Yeah, and I think, like, by the end, you're asking yourself some serious questions about some things, and I think if you want to get, the most out of, say, 3 hours of an extended length of time viewing something, then I think this is something that you will be richly rewarded for doing.
Well, that's excellent, Chris. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll finish it. We haven't finished it yet, but we will soon. But you said something about rewarding, and there's nothing more rewarding than winning a major tournament in Mandalay Bay playing EVO.
That's my hot topic. I love watching EVO. What does it even stand for? I probably should have looked that up.
Electronic Video Game Open?
Is that what it is?
Sure.
You just made that up.
Sure.
I like it, though. I don't even know what it stands for, but I just started watching it a couple years ago, and it's just a fighting game tournament. It's big, though, and it, like you said, it happens in Vegas. This year, the Street Fighter V finals, like the top 8, that was, I'm pretty sure, aired on ESPN. Like, it was a major broadcast. I watch it for Tekken 7, so that's why I was so excited when Tekken 7 came out this year, because I'd been watching it on EVO for like the last 2 years. I see, Chris is telling me now, it's the Evolution Championship Series, EVO for short.
That's how professional this podcast is. I just showed Kathryn something.
Why didn't you bring it up?
I didn't interrupt her.
Okay, but He interrupts me to tell me how good he is at
I just want to
podcasting.
tell everyone how great at this we are.
So I've been watching Tekken for the last couple of years, and it's finally out in North America, so we got to play it. Because it wasn't in North America, Tekken 7 finals were always like Saturday afternoon or something. So this was the first year that it was on the last day on Sunday, and like it was in like 3:30 in the afternoon or something the finals were on. But it's just super, super entertaining. I watched mostly Tekken 7 and the Street Fighter 5 finals, but I also, it's where Myles and I first saw Guilty Gear X, and like that game just looked, oh no, we played it and I didn't know what it was.
Bravo, yeah.
At Con Bravo, and then I saw it on Evo and I was like, oh, this is that crazy game that we played at Con Bravo, and it's just it's a really fun one to watch. I think it's probably one of my favorites to watch just because the characters are so bizarre and it's like a fun animations type fighting game. So I watched that. Street Fighter 5 was like really exciting because there's this like 18-year-old American kid, I think his like username is Puck, he goes by, and he's like the first, like this stuff is like generally dominated by Korean and Japanese players, and then this little 18-year-old American kid, I guess he had recently also just won like a major tournament, and he was like a favorite to go in there, and it was a little heartbreaking because he made it to the finals, and it's like, I don't know if you know how it works, it's like with the bracket reset, so there's
It's
losers.
a double elimination round, tournament.
Right,
Sure.
so there's the winner's bracket and the loser's bracket, and he made it to the finals through the winner's bracket. So in order for the person that makes it to the final with him, it was a Japanese guy named Kido.
All right, I'm going to stop you there.
Uh-oh.
Chris, you are Takedo. You've been playing
Yeah.
Street Fighter for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Longer than
You were in the
probably
loser's bracket.
Puck.
And this kid was born the year that Street Fighter 2 came out.
Okay.
And he's waiting for you at the grand finals. Had to play significantly less matches of Street Fighter.
Yeah.
All right, I want to hear the internal monologue going through Takedo's head.
How old is Takedo?
He's probably
He's in his 70s.
No, he's in his
Okay.
he's in his 30s, and he would be considered an older kind of veteran Street Fighter player, right?
So the inner monologue, you're immediately he's thinking to himself, I'm tired. I'm very tired. I'm very hungry. Puck, this sounds like a Shakespearean character. I'm upset that I'm going to have to meet some kind of weird forest god and beat him. This is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life.
Absolutely.
He's way too young. He's way too young. Things have really fallen off the rails for me. I used to be really good at this. I thought I was the Mozart of Street Fighter 5, and and now I feel like maybe he is the Mozart and I'm his Salieri, because Salieri was significantly older than Mozart.
Yes.
And so is Puck, like, I feel like Puck may be one of these kids who's like always laughing in a high-pitched voice and like is making fart jokes, but also really good.
No,
And Mozart's
you know
like,
what? Puck was quite poised. His mom, I think, was there.
All right, Kathryn. So
No,
you're
I can't roleplay.
And this guy who's a seasoned vet is coming up to you, and you're going to play the grand finals as this 18-year-old kid who doesn't know anything. He's green. He is green. He's wet behind the ears.
I will tell you I'm not a role player, but I am going to tell you that there was a lot of pressure on this kid because there hasn't been an American or a North American champion since, like, I don't know, 2009 or something like that. Like, 2000, yes, long time ago. Let's say 2009.
but what's just happened is that someone has knocked at your door, and you open the door, and it's someone in a Vega mask. And he goes, Puck, you must play Street Fighter 5 for me. Very much like the movie Amadeus.
Oh, right.
So,
This
so
is
we're really taking it into we're doing
You're
a
going
deep dive
into Mozart's. Okay.
I really think that Milos Forman needs to direct the Evo movie at this point.
right, and by the end of the thing, I guess I'm being wheeled through Evo.
Boy.
And I'm reaching out to everyone and saying, "Rise, you fun people! Play Street Fighter! You are all God's creatures!"
This tangent is gonna fly over everybody's.
Yeah, you have to be intimately aware of the movie Amadeus for this to be.
I'm going to switch my hot topic. I think everyone really needs to
watch
an old movie from the 80s called Amadeus.
Well, you know what? It had an Oscar-winning performance in Tom Hulce. Right?
Tom Hulce.
I'm pretty sure he won the Oscar for that.
That guy plays Salieri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
that guy. You know
Sure
that
does.
Guy. Salieri.
Oh boy, we're pros. Yeah, we're so good at podcasting.
And I'm going to attempt. Can we all attempt to do the laugh
No.
from Amadeus?
No.
Well, how does it go?
Oh no.
Kathryn.
No, I refuse. I refuse. Stop it.
She did it.
She did it. Did you hear? It sounded a lot like mine.
Oh, boy.
So, if you're not into Vampire the Masquerade and the movie Amadeus, you might want to check out some other podcasts, like I did this week.
Oh, okay, sure. I guess I'm done. Yeah, you guys will just have to find out on your own who won Street Fighter V.
We set up a whole story. And then
didn't let it end.
Threw it in the river. And we started talking about Amadeus.
So if anyone is looking for another co-host to a podcast, I'm available.
All right. What's going on with Street Fighter? Who won?
Yeah, tell us
You know
all
what?
about that.
No, I am just gonna say that it was a very dramatic final, right?
Tell me about it. We got really dramatic there.
But you know, there was a lot of pressure on Puck. He's 18-year-old. He's never been on like such a big stage as Evo. Takedo, I think his name is, the other finalist. He had actually come in second, I think, in 2013, and was thirsty for the win as well. And so he also had a very good story coming into this, trying to redeem himself from 4 years ago. And he reset the bracket and ended up winning, beating Puck. And it was heartbreaking for Puck, but he, held his head up high. Second place at EVO in your first tournament, your first time, is pretty good.
He'll be back.
He's the Sidney Crosby of Evo, maybe.
Oh, but kind of the best thing about because they interviewed Takedo after he won, and I just found it really interesting because they talked about him having come in second 4 years ago and what that did for him, what that meant for him, and how he prepared to get back to this place. And he said, when he lost, he started practicing, practicing, and he's like, but that's not enough. You can't just practice the game. And he's like, Street Fighter V is very much about controlling your opponent, and he basically learned how that was his focus, was learning how your opponent thinks, how they're going to play. It's another element to the game that he elevated in order to come out on top.
It's the third level of playing a one-on-one game against somebody, right? Your first level is trying to do the things you want to do. The second level is trying to read what your opponent's doing. And the third level is trying to get your opponent to do what you want.
Yeah, so there you go. I just wanted to finish with that. That's all.
I mean, Puck didn't win this time, but Mozart wrote 42 symphonies, so there'll be plenty of time for him to do well in future tournaments. Not every symphony is going to be great.
He's going to win next year. I think he's probably going to win. Stop. Okay. Moving on. You listen to a podcast.
I listened to a podcast from LA. I wasn't in LA. The podcast is from LA. It's called ROM of the Week.
Oh.
And it's done by these three rando dudes. I was just searching for stuff on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
And I found them.
That can go really well.
Yeah, hey, it worked out this time. I didn't run into football 17,776.
You didn't find a deep introspective...
No, it's a new podcast. It's about 12 episodes in, and they pick a random game, and all three of them play it, and then they talk about it the next week. It's one of those podcasts. But they usually pick games where they're torturing the other players to have to play. Okay. And they have a really good rivalry between each other. And they're also very good at voices, and they do characters as well, which is something we like.
Right.
Stop. That's not going to be the thing now.
That's the thing.
No,
listen,
that's not going to be the thing.
If you don't like the laugh from Mozart's Amadeus, we're taking a deep dive on that one.
Oh.
But it's one of the guys is Leroy, and then it's Gavin and Ian. The episode that got me on board was they played the Lost game for the Xbox 360 and the PS3 and the PC, and they were just like, it was like a puzzle game and a walking simulator, but all the puzzles were just fixing fuse boxes. And they're like, every time you run into John Locke, it sounded like a guy doing a fake impression of John Locke as a joke. He'd be like, "Hi guys, have you seen the banyan trees?" and then they actually brought on John Locke.
I get it now. You mean Lost, the TV show game?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I was not on board. I didn't understand. I was like, oh, there's a game called the Lost game.
Yeah,
I get it.
Or I thought it was like a lost game. Like
Yeah.
someone lost
I
the game.
apologize. This is my first day. I'm not very good at explaining.
I get
things.
it. We played this Lost game for about like 10 seconds. That you had it on your PC, and we.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah, it was like
remember
Hurley or something, right? Do you start? I can't
that.
remember.
No, you play a character that's created just for the game.
Oh, well.
Oh, Johnny.
Reginald.
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 You play as
Reginald.
Reginald.
Okay.
But they sold me on that one. And then I went back and I listened to their episode on Bad Dudes, which was just as good.
Yeah.
And then they played a Shrek party game that was hilarious.
Huh.
It's definitely worth checking out. You can find them on romoftheweek.com.
Sounds good.
It was good. So that's it for Hot Topics this month. Now we're going over to gaming expectations. Chris, this was your idea for a topic. I don't want to put it all on your shoulders,
Sure.
but it's all on your shoulders right now. Gaming expectations. What do you even mean by that?
What do I even mean by this topic? It was a 1 or 2 sentence thing I sent to you guys 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was in a somewhat philosophical mood, and here we go.
You were playing too much of that football 1776.
I guess what I wanted to get at with this was a discussion about what we want out of games that we don't necessarily get out of other media. You know, like a lot of people talk when they say they like a game. I really liked it. I liked the story. I liked it. It was very cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that that's not necessarily what I want out of a good game. I don't necessarily want it to be like a movie. And I think the best games are not necessarily just like movies. You know, the games where you have big stretches of cutscenes for 10 minutes and you have to sit there and watch like something else happen in the game that you're not controlling.
And I think that people really mention things like the cinematics or the story or the music and stuff like that because it's very tangible. It's a very a thing that you can see and hear and you can talk about, just because when you talk about movies or TV shows or you talk about reading a book, these are all things that you can also bring up. But what makes a game different are the mechanics, and people don't normally talk about game mechanics as some sort of media that they like. And in fact, a lot of the best mechanics, the ones that you don't even know are there, the ones that feel intuitive, the ones that you don't realize that you're using a mechanic in a game. Like it's doing the thing that you're controlling and you think it should work this way, and it works that way.
But I think that I'm probably closer to the people that you're talking about, the ones that say that they appreciate, they like the story or they like the cinematics, because that's actually something that I do really enjoy. And it's probably because I'm not like a super hardcore gamer. I don't have as much nostalgia around gaming as you guys do. I think that I very much appreciate games as a spectator even, right? This is like I watch hours and hours of people playing a fighting game, right? So I appreciate stuff from the side of a spectator, not necessarily the person playing the game. So that's why I would appreciate things like the narrative. That's why The Last of Us in my top 100 is my favorite game, and it was my favorite game before I'd even played it. I watched Myles play it. And so I understand that perspective of things, but I think as being an active player in a game, that's when the conversation kind of switches to like when you're talking about what you get out of it and you're talking about game mechanics and stuff like that. I understand that comes from being a gamer.
Sure, I just feel like very early on in games criticism, or as games were really getting going, the easiest thing that you could tie games to were movies. As games got more and more graphically impressive, like something, say, like the original PlayStation Metal Gear Solid. Like lots of cutscenes, and that was seen as like a big moment in gaming in the same way as, say, Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
You know, like it's very easy to tie it back to already existing, already respected kind of art. Like clearly, like gaming is not like painting.
Right.
Like gaming is most like cinema, but there are things that are obviously different from the cinema. I think we've defined roughly the parameters of the conversation.
Oh no.
So like, I guess I'll kick off with an example, and I guess the example I have is Breath of the Wild. So I've been playing through Breath of the Wild. I'm done as much as I want to play through Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is a lot bigger than what I spent with it. But there were moments in Breath of the Wild where you would look off into the distance and there'd be something you didn't even know was possible in the game.
Right.
Like there's some kind of thing flying through the air and you're like, what is that thing flying through the air? Where did that come from? I've been playing this game for 10 hours and I didn't know there were things flying through the air. And then it's gone and you don't see it anymore and you're like, where did that thing go? And then as the thing progresses, you can just go there, you can like experience that. And it felt very much like I was in control of the experience.
Right.
I was in control of where I went, when I did it, and it wasn't the game holding my hand through it. It was very much I want to do this thing. I can go experience it because I saw it in the game. So the game left it open for what you wanted to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's probably that's the evolution that we're heading towards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where we're no longer comparing it to a cinematic experience. It's trying to define itself as its own thing. So when we talk about like our gaming expectations, and we were talking earlier about why do you choose gaming over going to the movies, right? Like
sure.
That's often the comparison. And like we were talking about the Cartridge Club, this kind of came up with in terms of the value of a game, right? And how do you determine a game's value or worth? And in the Cartridge Club, it became like a very monetary thing, like trying to define it by how much monetary value you get out of it. But I think what we're talking about here is the experiential value, right?
Yeah, sure.
And how do you quantify it though, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you say 2 hours? If I get 2 hours of a really good experience, then it's totally worth it. I think that it's so subjective. It's how you feel playing. Like, I don't know, I could play a game and if it's only 20 minutes, but I had the best time of my life playing it, then that game's totally worth it, right? It's not compared to anything else. It's compared to that 20 minutes. It's just me putting a value on that 20 minutes of gameplay, right? I don't know. It's hard to make these comparisons. I don't really know where I'm going with this.
So I think this conversation really did start on Bonus Barrel, and they use the term "bang for your buck." Like a lot of people say, "Oh, this game's only 6 hours. It's totally not worth $79.99 plus tax."
Right.
I'm not going to pre-order this. This is only, X number of hours. But, that's not the whole picture here. Like, you can play No Man's Sky forever. It's got infinite time value,
sure, yeah.
right? Like, is that game worth the price? No, it's not, because I don't want to just float around.
Right, like if you compared it to something, say, like Inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I paid much less for Inside because it was like a small indie game. To me, that game is a full value game. Like, if I paid full price for that game, even though it was only a few hours, I would have been like, no, the story is amazing. It looks great. All the mechanics were intuitive. And when I figured out a puzzle, I felt smart.
Sure.
Even though that wasn't the case. And they had taught me how to do things in a certain way that I would come to this conclusion by this point. Like, it was methodical. It was so well thought out, that game.
Yeah.
So I'd value that at full price. And really what I'm looking for in a game, I mean, it depends on the game, right? Because there's certain expectations when you hear the name of a game, right? Like, if somebody's like, hey, Street Fighter 6 is coming out, that game comes with a lot of expectations.
Sure.
It comes with the expectations that the game is going to be competitive enough for EVO.
Right.
It comes with the expectations that the mechanics are going to work roughly the same, but they're going to change a parry system or something like that, and that's the make or break for the entire game. You're going to expect that the game will have a versus mode, right? You're going to expect that the game has an arcade mode,
right?
And online functionality at this point would be an expectation for a Street Fighter game.
But that's because it's the 6th game in that series, right? Like,
that's correct.
I certainly had very specific expectations for Tekken 7. But what are your expectations
for a new IP?
Yeah,
for For a new IP, yeah. I mean, that depends on the new IP. So if a game came out that said Super Fun Party Time, right? I would be like, well, I expect that this is going to be a multiplayer game. Sure. I expect that I'll be able to do couch co-op.
You're going to need to find some friends.
Yeah. Like exactly, with like Jackbox or, any of that sort of game, I have that expectation that I want to have a good time. Like, I don't expect that game to be competitive.
Right.
I don't expect to get a satisfaction from winning that game. The satisfaction is in playing that game.
That's right.
And there are other games where I do expect a certain satisfaction in winning. So a game like Horizon Zero Dawn just came out. When I looked at that game, my expectations for it is that I'll be able to play through the game single player. It'll have a linear story. The story will be quite good, is what I'm assuming. And I have expectations that I'll feel accomplished after I finish the game. And that's kind of what I want out of Horizon Zero Dawn. Also, hearing that it's a AAA game and it's $79.99. For me, it could be anywhere between, and I know I'm kind of on the extreme side of this, but the game could be as quick as 6 hours, and I feel like that would be fine for me, but I know it's quite longer than 6 hours.
I guess it's also because we're paying money for these games, right?
Yeah, like you want to kind of take the conversation away from like the value of it, right? Because no one ever,
right,
after you've seen a movie in the theater, do you go, oh, I wish I hadn't spent that $12 on it?
Or do you think you should be paying more to see Wonder Woman than you do to see the indie film that somebody made for $10,000?
Right, like it's rarely a conversation about money when it comes to like engaging with cinema, but so often it's a discussion about money when it comes to engaging with gaming, and I feel like that kind of makes the expectation of gaming commodity based or something like that.
Yeah, and I think also part of the problem with that is that like a monetary value is fixed. Like $80 is $80 to everyone, but $80 means something different to everyone.
Yeah.
So that it's a really hard, like, yeah, I got $80 worth out of it, but maybe my mom gave me $80 for my birthday, so it was like it was free. So it's not a fixed scale to compare games to. Like, yes, is this game worth $80, but this indie game is only worth $20 because that's how much I paid for it? But I don't know, because that $20 I spent on it, I might have to work really, really hard to save up $20, right? And
sure.
Then your expectations for whatever you spent on it, or whatever, So it's kind of nice to pull that piece out of this conversation and just talk about like your personal experiences. But that's the problem: is it's your personal experience, right?
Right.
My expectation for a game could be very different from Myles's. You were talking about like your expectation for an IP, but maybe you have different expectations for a genre of game, right? Like a zombie game, a zombie shooter, or something like that. What do you want out of it? Because Last of Us to me it's a zombie apocalypse game,
right.
But like so is Dead Rising, and so is I don't play
State of Decay.
Sure.
Right, but there was something about Last of Us that was different for me. My first experience with it was watching Myles play, and I was engaged in that more than if he were to just play like Dead, whatever that chop to drop game is or whatever, right? Like any other zombie game. I don't think I've been that compelled by the zombie genre.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, and I think what changed that too was the expectations you have from the developer, right? Because the expectations were quite high because they had
done Uncharted.
They did Uncharted,
right?
And you know the gameplay is going to come first, right?
Yeah.
The mechanics are going to come first, so you're expecting good mechanics in Last of Us, and you know that they do a great job writing a story for a game, And my expectation was that the story was going to be good for Last of Us, and that's what would compel me to continue to play the game after the first 30 minutes or whatever. And it's true, that's what happened, and the story surpassed my expectations, but I was still expecting a good story. And when I buy a Naughty Dog game, that's what I'm looking for.
Well, I guess it ties into our conversation last time about party games. Remember, a party game we kind of left out of last month was
Rock Band Guitar Hero?
The Rock Band Guitar Hero. And
people corrected us on a lot of
sure.
They brought up a lot of stuff.
That was our bad, not mentioning that.
Sure.
That was an era of time.
I think that we didn't properly define what we consider to be a party game, right?
Yeah, but also Rock Band and Guitar Hero for the last few years have not been particularly relevant. So,
but during their time,
during their time, we had parties that were just Rock Band and just Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
But something like that, the game doesn't reside in the screen, right? That's not the game we're playing. The game we're playing is with each other on the couch,
right?
Right, that kind of experience. I think it was so popular further because it wasn't about, like, the screen.
You kind of felt like you were in a band.
You felt like you were in a band.
Like you're holding a microphone and singing, like, really badly if you're Myles, but you're singing, and I'm holding drumsticks and, like, holding my own, keeping the beat.
Kathryn, what the hell?
You're a really bad singer, everyone knows
I'm
it.
a really great singer at Rock Band. Have you heard me sing The Killers?
Yeah, I have over and over and over again.
But you were basically all playing a game with each other. You were basically all playing a game where you're on the same team.
You really rely on each other.
Yeah.
Right?
And you were all in it. The best moments of that where you were all in it and someone did something fantastic and you were like, so good.
Yeah, and you know what? And it is, like, so the expectation for that game is that you're going to fire it up and everyone's going to have a fun time. Right? But, well, yeah, everyone does. Everyone just has fun. Like, you don't even have to be playing. You could just have to be in the room, and it's fun to see people, like, singing or kind of playing guitar.
Right.
Or whatever. But,
or the drums.
Or the drums.
Part of the reason why I think DJ Hero failed.
We're coming back to DJ Hero, aren't we?
Part of the reason why I think DJ Hero failed was because DJ Hero could only be played by one person at a time.
Right.
You know, and these games were supposed to be multiplayer experiences. And I think they really screwed up by having a whole bunch of different peripherals.
Oh, you know what they needed? Additional peripherals. So for DJ Hero, if everybody got digital glow sticks. And then you could
move
everybody
them
else.
to the
Yeah,
beat.
everybody's moving glow sticks.
Also, someone needed to be the manager in Rock Band, like come in with the drugs.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. You you need that in the DJ Hero as well.
Oh yeah, for
the
sure.
ecstasy, digital ecstasy dealer.
Yeah. But I guess
it was a different time.
Listen, it was like 2009.
People
Things were
wore
different back
pants.
then.
They were blown out. These pants. These kids ska. What was that?
Things were so different back then. But party games have obviously evolved from that. But I feel like we lost something when that died, when that kind of gaming died out. Like, no one since, say, 2009 is getting together for that kind of experience anymore. You know, it's become a very insular, two-player at the most, one-player most of the time video gaming.
Yeah, I could see that. Which is why when we play things like Jackbox Party, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different and it's special and it's so much more fun, right? Because there's nothing like it. So yes, there are couch co-op games, and we had a ton of fun playing like Overcooked and stuff like that. But it's a different experience when it is that party setting. It feels like we're talking about last month's topic again.
No. But just to turn it back around on this topic, when you're going for an experience like the experience that Jackbox provides, are you willing to pay as much as the experience that Last of Us provides?
See, and that's a very interesting question. If I could get something that The Last of Us... it's I don't know if the comparison is kind of fair.
Well, you need to use money to buy both things. So we have
that's
to
why it
compare.
always boils down to, right? Is that you're
Are
paying
some
for-
experiences worth less money than other experiences?
Yeah.
I think it's just that the Jackbox, using the Jackbox as a specific example, it's kind of a less robust experience than The Last of Us. The Last of Us has a 30-hour story arc.
It's more like 10, but...
Sure, fine, whatever. It took me 30 hours to finish the game because I'm not good at it.
Probably took me that long as well.
Right. But Jackbox is although at this point I probably played something like 20 hours of Jackbox spread out over...
And then when you look at the amount of people who played with you and you calculate the time concurrently...
I guess The Last of Us requires more resources to make, but I'm not entirely sure that I'm looking for an experience like that most of the time in my gaming life right now.
But also, let's add value to the fact that when you play Jackbox Party, you're bringing in people who don't play video games even, right? Who just no, I'm not super into video games, but you can convince them to play Jackbox Party,
sure,
and they'll play it, and they'll have a good time, right? And so there is value to that, to the kind of inclusion of your friends and maybe even strangers. Like we've played with people we don't really know that well or whatever, and there's an added value to that. So there's the personal value, the personal experience that you get of playing Last of Us where, or let's say, like we just talked with Jake about Journey, and that was, he had a very, very...
Jake described his experience playing Journey as rapturous.
Okay.
Right?
And borderline religious is what he said too, right? So...
And it would be interesting to find out, if he's listening to this podcast, let us know if you would have paid full value for an experience like that.
Here's an interesting comparison. You guys just finished Doom.
Yes.
Right? And I also played Doom, but I paid $79 for Doom, and I think you guys paid like $20 for Doom?
25, I think.
$25 for Doom.
Yeah.
And I don't feel upset that...
I would not feel upset either. I think that the experience that I had for those 10 hours or however long it took me to beat the game, that experience was worth a full-priced game.
Let's say, though, that Myles also values the experience of sticking it to the man, right? Like, getting games for cheap. So that's also, but I mean, if he just acquired that game having paid full price for it, the experience doesn't change for him, right?
But like speaking about Doom, I guess is like we go back to Doom yet again. But I think the idea here is that there's really not a cinematic quality to Doom. It's all in the gameplay. Like that heavy bass starts and the heavy metal music starts, and you're there. You're in that world. There's nothing on the screen that's really distracting you from the game. Like it's all game at that point, right?
Yeah. And I think that part of the strength was that Bethesda had made the decision to exactly meet the expectations of what people would want from a game called Doom. They didn't want to turn it into something that it wasn't or modernize it.
Right.
Try to get philosophical or something, right?
Although it is, if you think about it.
Oh, sure.
There's a lot to it. It's layered, that game.
But I mean, we talked to Travis about Doom, and you were valuing like the story that the character went through, and he said, I was just like so deep into the action that I wasn't like the story kind of just flies past you, but you can get a story out of it. And I think also like that somehow Doom kind of figured out that formula, right? Like where the music and the gameplay and the pace of the game kind of seamlessly creates this experience for you, right? Like you may not realize that it's the music that's like pumping your adrenaline, and mixed with like this wave of demons coming at you, and you just trying to survive it and probably having to play it a few times before you can even get through it. So somehow they have figured out that formula.
Right, but that's like a game that could only be a game. Like that is a game, right? Like those moments cannot be created in other media. I think we've hit on a few points where gaming like hits that point where it can't be recreated in other media. You know, like Rock Band on the couch with everybody, Doom in those moments, Breath of the Wild with the things that you can go to
you're
anything.
You're in control.
Like you're in control, and the game's letting you do something that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think that's why we pick games over movies.
Hey.
That's what this podcast was about, right?
Movies are also good, though. All of these forms of media are good, especially podcasts. Thanks for listening, everybody.
And your expectations when you go to a movie is very, very like it's pretty limited. Like, what are you expecting when you go see a movie, right? So,
you don't go to see a movie and then go, it was pretty good, but I just wanted to see it from a different perspective. Like, I want to go over behind there, behind that building. I want to know what's
behind that door.
Yeah,
right? And then you just can't do it. But your expectations for seeing a horror movie over romance or or a comedy are different. But there are limitations, and I feel like the playing a video game or creating a video game allows you to go beyond those limitations, and that's what we're experiencing from very different perspectives, right? Whether it's experiencing the story of the game or if it's experiencing mechanics, that's what's different, I think.
Absolutely. I think, if anything, video games are one of the most complex mediums out there. Yeah. It's like mixed media. Like, it has all of these included in it, and it really makes it complex, and it takes a real good architect to be able to make a engaging video game.
And I think what's really hard about the video game industry, though, is that its critics are loud, vocal people, right? So,
the crowd that consumes video games tends to have traditionally been monolithic in its makeup, like males 18 to 30. That's very much changing now, and I feel like a lot of the industry is catching up to that change, but there's definitely been some growing pains with that group being very vocal about its expectations, and being very vocal of when things that are supposed to meet those expectations don't,
like No Man's Sky,
like for a variety of reasons. Maybe not necessarily. I'm not necessarily talking about about the No Man's Sky example. I'm talking more of the Call of Duty has something going on that like you don't expect in a Call of Duty, and that group of people like gets very upset about that kind of thing.
And it crosses the line between expectations and entitlement sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
I'll just throw that out there. Also, I just wanted to say that so most of the time when you think of a video game, you think single player, Call of Duty style, first person shooter, just because it's such a huge genre. Or you think of like an action adventure sort of game. Games that get away from that single player or open world narrative or linear narrative. Games like Jackbox, games like Overcooked, Undertale, things like that. I think that since they're providing you with a mystery experience, like this is an experience that you might not like, but it's going to be different and unique to what you're doing. They have to come out at a lower price point just because they want more people to jump in and take a chance, which is understandable.
It's a risk, right? It is pretty high risk for those.
But it's high reward, because if there weren't companies and people doing that sort of thing, then the market would. I don't want to say it would crash, but it just wouldn't be as interesting.
I don't think I'd be a gamer.
Yeah.
If the gaming industry was just dictated by whatever's the most popular at the time, right? So because then it would just be like Call of Duty forever, right?
Right. It's part of why you have to go outside sometimes of the AAA gaming experience to find something that actually hits more of like the kind of experience that you want out of this kind of stuff.
And a lot of the time when I pick up a video game, what I'm thinking is I just want a different experience. I want a unique experience.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to see something I haven't seen before. I want to feel something I haven't felt before.
Right.
Playing a video game.
Right.
Well, that was heavy.
Hey!
Off the cuff, even. We did it, guys.
Who prepared for that?
We
Nobody.
We did it, guys.
And it'll probably seem like
That's the level of professionalism you can expect from Flock of Nerds.
Well, we still got some more podcasts left in us. It's time for some odds and ends.
Odds and ends.
Oh, so we did another contest like we do every month. All you had to do was send us a tweet using the hashtag FlockTalk, and you were entered. And we have a winner. Is that right, Kathryn?
We do. It was totally random, like it is every month, guys. Every month it's totally random.
Why are you winking?
No, I'm not winking.
Why are all those fingers crossed?
No, it's always totally random. It's a mystery prize this month.
So who gets to take home our Amadeus prize pack?
We're going to make our own Amadeus game, and you have to play as Salieri. And,
it's going to be a unique experience.
You get to play as Salieri.
And you will value.
So you're going to work. This is how it's going to work. You're going to work at getting really good at a game, and then someone is going to come along much younger, and they're going to be amazing at the game.
Yeah, just naturally good. They're just going to show up and
they don't even care about being good at the game. And then you then have to press A really quickly and see if God answers your prayers.
All right, so who won that game?
Nobody wins that game.
But someone did win. Someone did win a mystery prize, and that person is, drumroll,
it is Mrs. Q Dog.
You didn't wait for a drum roll.
All right, do a drum roll again.
No, it's Mrs. Q Dog. Thank you for tweeting at us. You win. Well, we'll find you something good.
Yeah, maybe it'll be in this bag of stuff I got. By the way, guys, I got this bag of stuff.
Oh, your odds and ends is a bag of stuff.
What is this bag of stuff?
So let me tell you the story.
Oh boy.
I was at an EB Games.
Of course you were.
Like I do. And I was just looking for deals, and this guy comes in with his kid, and his kid's like, do you buy old games? And they were like, oh, let's see what you got. And they took like one or two things, and I saw them put a couple Wii U games back in the bag, and they were like, we'll give you this much for these two, but we're not taking the other stuff. So as they leave, I approach them and I say, hey, how's it going? I'll give you $20 for the rest of the bag. And the guy goes, son, do you want $20 for the bag? And he's like, sure. So I got this bag of stuff for $20.
Please tell me you didn't rip off a little tiny kid.
I have no idea what's in the bag.
Oh, okay.
You haven't opened the bag yet?
Do you want to see what's in the bag?
Let's see what's in the bag.
All right, you two pull things out of the bag.
Okay.
It's a real visual experience for an audio podcast.
Radio and podcasts are an inherently visual medium, so here we go.
All right, first thing.
I got the Wii U game. Oh, Lego City Undercover.
Oh, that's not the Nintendo Selects. That's worth about $20.
There we go. We made up money.
We certainly screwed that kid over so far. Let's see, what else
this
is
is terrible.
How many things are in this friggin' bag?
Okay,
Keep going.
This is gonna go fast.
NBA 2K something.
I found Need for Speed Rivals Complete Edition Xbox One.
Rayman Raving Rabbids TV Party on Nintendo DS.
Disney Infinity 2.0 on the Wii U.
That was the other Wii U game.
Just Dance 3 on the Wii. Oh dear.
That is a different experience.
Lego Harry Potter Years 5 to 7 on the Nintendo DS.
It's a Skylander with an eyeball.
Okay, there's a whole bunch of Skylanders in here. So.
Alright, my Skylander has a big sledgehammer.
You know what? I'm looking in the bag now. It's just a bunch of Skylanders.
Oh, and Venom. I got 2 Skylanders. One is a tree with 2 mallets, and the other one's Spyro.
This is a lot of money.
Hey, you got the Tron guy.
Oh, sweet.
I think this kid shouldn't have sold this stuff for $20.
You
What
think
do
so?
you guys think?
You know what, though? If the kid was done with
Skylander
and Infinity, then for sure, $20 for that stuff was worth it. I don't know.
Alright, if you want to see a picture of all the stuff that was in the bag, make sure you tweet at us using the hashtag FlockTalk, and I'll respond with the picture.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like we're looking at a child's childhood.
For $20.
And we bought it for $20, and I don't know...
You know what? They looked well off. I'll just say that. I'll throw that out there.
You know what?
His dad was fancy. His dad was fancy.
No, this kid got a Switch, and he is all in on the Switch, and has zero interest in playing his Wii or Wii U or DS or
I just
Xbox.
look at this mountain of things we got, and it's like, don't it always seem to go... that you don't realize what you got till it's gone. And here we are. This kid's going to be like wondering where his Disney Infinity 2.0 went, where the Rabbids went. Listen, if you're listening to this kid, too bad. Too bad. We have it now.
No, he's all in on Switch. He's not. He hasn't even thought about this stuff since he got shut down at EB Games and was crushed. And then this person came by and lifted his spirits by giving him $20 to get rid of these old memories that he's not even gonna think twice about.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of getting crushed, Kathryn, you watched a little bit of the Overwatch World Cup. You just love competitive gaming.
I do. I love watching it, but it's partly because I love Overwatch and I love watching Overwatch. I know people are like it's not the best spectator thing, but if you like Overwatch and you play it, it's fun to watch. So the Overwatch World Cup qualifiers are happening right now. They're happening all over the world. Group A is playing in Shanghai, and China, who's the number 1 seed, they finished first in their group, and Norway came in second. In Group B, France and Thailand move on.
Classic Thailand and France.
It's not that exciting, I guess.
2 of my favorite foods.
But they're all playing towards... Oh, boy. You don't like French food.
Yeah,
you like
frog's legs and escargot.
Poutine.
The five basic sauces. Who doesn't enjoy French cuisine? Hollandaise is one of them, right?
Yeah, sure.
Is Bernays one of them?
Probably. That sounds like
I
French
thought you were
sauce.
talking about ketchup and mustard because they're French. French is ketchup and
You
mustard.
put them on French fries.
It's 32 different countries. It's kind of like the World Cup. It's split up into I think 8 groups. They're happening around the world. But yeah, I've been watching that, and it kind of all leads up to when they hit their top 8, I think. Those guys will be playing at the World Cup finals at BlizzCon.
I think it's crazy because we played probably 200 hours of Overwatch at this point, and I was watching a bit of the coverage with you, and I was like, I understand about 15% of what these people are saying. How much more Overwatch do I need to play to understand what is going on right now?
And this is what's crazy about it. We're watching. I'm like, hey, I know that shoutcaster. They're his handle's Monte Cristo. And I'm like, I know that guy. And I look him up. I'm like, oh, he's a League of Legends shoutcaster. And it's how? And Myles is that's if you're a professional sportscaster and and you talk about football, and then they're like, hey, can you go cover this baseball game? Right?
Right.
It's pretty impressive, I found, because he wasn't he's kind of a color commentator, but he speaks really intelligently. Anyway, I was really impressed. Korea is the number 2 seed, and I don't know how good Canada is, but I will cheer for Korea if Canada doesn't get far enough.
Soccer World Cup rules apply. If your country that you're in is not doing well enough, you can pick any country in the world that you want.
You can't pick any country. You just have to go back in your background.
That's
where
true.
were your parents from? Then you have to go with where are their parents from.
That's true. And if you don't have anything associated with that in the World Cup, you can pick an underdog country. But if you don't have anything like that in your past, if you're just Canadian forever, or if you're US going back to the Mayflower, then pick an underdog. Don't be obnoxious and
I will
and pick a
apologize.
serious team.
I'm going to apologize to Diego because Argentina got knocked out. So one of our listeners, Diego, is Argentinian.
One of our listeners is
Well, he's
Diego Maradona.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's a big fan of you.
Listen, Diego, we gotta talk. I think we should have Diego Maradona on one time to the podcast. That's
Maybe we'll do an intro. What would we have to talk about for Diego Maradona's intro?
Cocaine?
Oh, guys!
It's the summer. Lots of stuff going on, lots of events, people playing video games competitively, but also summer blockbusters. Have you seen any great summer movies yet, Chris?
So blockbusters, I've seen The Big Sick, and you guys have seen The Big Sick too, right?
I guess that's not really a blockbuster, though. So
No,
But it's
not
the
at all.
hit rom-com of the
But
summer.
it's doing really well.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
so
doing
happy
well.
for it. I love Kumail Nanjiani, so...
Yeah, it was a good movie. I thought it was well paced. There's a few parts of it that I was like, nah, I don't know. I'm not on board with some of the family stuff. Some of the family stuff seemed
Some
like
of
stretched.
his family stuff?
Yeah, his family stuff seems stretched.
I would agree with that.
And maybe that's how it happened in real life. That's cool. But if it felt less organic.
It felt a little bit like conflict was needed there, so they kind of fabricated a little bit of conflict. But I will say that a lot of the family dynamic stuff on Emily's side was quite good. Like
Yeah,
Ray
sure.
Romano and Holly Hunter
Fantastic.
knocked it out of the park. I think for me, I haven't seen a lot of movies this year, but if we're talking Oscar locks in terms of nominations, I think that Ray Romano and Holly Hunter could expect nominations here. For this movie.
That's pretty high. I don't know.
I
but
don't think so.
I
No,
just don't
I think
know.
so for sure.
I just don't
I'm
know if it
gonna
would get
call
that
it.
kind of recognition.
I don't
but
think it's going to get recognized for much, but supporting actor and actress for sure.
It's directed by Michael Showalter. Did you know that?
From Stella.
Stella.
And, yeah, he was the
And
lead in
then-
Wet Hot American Summer as well.
We've also seen The Little Hours.
What's that?
That's the Aubrey Plaza woman from Glow. Who's that woman from Glow?
Oh, Alison Brie?
Allison Brie. They're in a movie about
Oh, is
nuns. All the funny parts are in the trailer.
Okay.
Aw,
That
that's a
often
shame because it
happens.
looked good.
And the rest of it is okay. And everyone's having a good time, and it's a bit too improvisy in places. If you watch the trailer, if you really want to see it, then, like, I didn't mind it. And then we also saw War for the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, how
I
was
heard
it?
that's great.
Yeah, it was fantastic. That
So
was,
Myles hasn't really watched them,
I haven't
but
seen any of it. I saw the one with Charlton Heston. Does he make a comeback?
I've never seen the first one in the series. I only watched 2, and then we watched 3. But
oh, okay. I think
And
I've only
I-
seen the first one and not the second one.
I don't
but-
think you need to watch number 1 to watch 2. I think you probably need to watch 2 to watch 3.
Oh, okay. So I'll have to watch 2 then.
But
That's how it is. then.
Apparently, they're all 3 are good.
I've just heard really good things about it, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad. Like, I want it to be good because I think they're not bad. You should watch them, Myles.
I never got the appeal of these apes.
Yeah.
Why does everybody love these apes?
I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee.
All right.
On that note, thank you all so much for listening. For Chris and Kathryn, I'm Myles. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.